Elogia of Prim is easily Dax's favorite Cardassian writer. Quark's Kanar has gone bad, and Cardassians believe that males do not make good engineers. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Nice. What's up, everybody? Hello.
My name's Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine's Season 3, Episode 15, called Destiny. It's directed by a person that always makes me smile when I see it, Mr. Les Landau. How are you today? This is the next
one, huh?
Yep.
Didn't pay attention to that.
Or as we like to call him, Morris Les Landau.
Morris Les. Can't help you on that.
It's only going to get worse from here, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah. Also, quick shout out to Cirroc's sister. She has a store called Abyssinian Kiosk. She makes that awesome shirt. You see Cirroc wearing it sometimes. You see me wearing it sometimes. Also, our associate producers. Sometimes you can get it in any array of colors. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Check out abyssiniankiosk.com. We will include it in the comments below. In the description box below and the comments. So please check that out. Order a shirt or a mug. Pick your colors and wear it with pride because it looks amazing. Show it one more time.
Yeah, I actually have one on too. This is a different one, but
yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah,
a little bit different, but she's got all kinds of selections. So
I see Madagascar hanging off the side there.
Yeah, the island.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, everything's good. I really like this episode, this Destiny episode. I thought it was packed with a lot of things. I know you want to get into it, but I just really think might as well, right? I think this thing was really packed with a lot of good stuff, and it was, to me, it fits the blueprint of the kind of episodes that we're starting to come to expect from DS9, which is these episodes that tell so much of a story, but also have this parallel to just things that provoke thought and make you question, the way we, as a society, kind of process information and deal with prophecy and all of these kinds of things. I think it's an excellent episode.
Yeah, I guess we might as well just dive right into that, which is the kind of the main theme. And that's what makes another reason why Star Trek is so good, is because they love to raise these kind of philosophical or political or social issues. And they love to not dictate the answer to you. They just love to say, here's the issue viewed from a different perspective, from a sci-fi perspective or an alien perspective, so that you can look at it through fresh eyes and you can make of it what you will. And, there are a lot of people, I see this in groups all the time, where people say something to the effect of, there's no religion in Star Trek, or religion doesn't exist in Star Trek, which makes you think immediately, did you even watch 7 years of Deep Space Nine? Do you know who the emissary is? Like, the whole point is Star Trek does tackle the, religion and philosophy and all those kind of things. But they kind of leave it up to us to decide, is Sisko the emissary, or is it all just a series of coincidences and false beliefs, or, and this episode really dives into that stuff in such a fun way. And a little later on, I kind of wanted to get into something called the Nostradamus effect too. But let's talk about the religious aspect. What did you think of, what was his name? Vedic Yarka popping in it. I should look up who the actor is, by the way. I recognize the actor. He's great.
Yeah, his name is Eric Avari.
Okay.
And I thought he did a very good job. I've seen him many times in, different things. He has that familiar face.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the way he did this character. What is the character's name?
Vedic Yarka.
Yarka, yeah, Vedic Yarka. I like it because he has really strong convictions in this, and his strong convictions actually challenge Kira's belief system, and it has this domino effect of now questioning Sisko's beliefs. And to me, that's what somebody who has strong convictions does. They actually awaken either the person to agree with them or disagree with them, or start to engage in a dialogue. And I think that's one thing that he did well by projecting his strong convictions onto Kira, onto Sisko, to get the ball rolling in this kind of idea of what prophecy is about and how it is interpreted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right away, my first thought when he popped in was, when he comes in and he says, whatever he has to say, and he said, even the Kai herself gives me my backing, or is, backing this. And my first thought was, well, why didn't they just have Kai Wynn come in and do it? But then, then I thought, was she just not, scheduling didn't work, so they had to make up a secondary character or something? But then kind of lets us know why, which was that, he's kind of like a disgraced Vedic. He's actually no longer a Vedic as of 2 months ago. So that's why. But then I started thinking, well, why was she backing it then? Who knows? It's all so confusing. Those Bajorans and their rascally religion.
Yeah, but one thing that wasn't touched upon in this particular thing is this kind of butterfly effect that happens. So him informing Sisko and Kira actually alters the course of events in itself, and then the decisions they make going forward also alters the course of events as they continue to go along. So I think that's one of the things that they don't really talk about much, but he's instrumental in the decision-making process, or informing the decision-making process going forward. And I think that the writers did a very good job at kind of talking about the idea of interpretation. And I think that's really one of the critical and key elements that they tackled in this particular episode. I personally walked away with it wasn't so much that the prophecy was incorrect, but it more so that it's incorrectly interpreted.
Right. And also, what you're touching on right before that was like a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is something that the prophecy in itself kind of creates the domino effect. Kind of like if somebody says, hey, you need to be really careful about India. You're going to have a war with India in like 5 years, right? And then what does that do? That makes, your military watch India very closely and have heightened tensions and this and that, which would eventually possibly create a war with India. Would they have had the war with India had they not mentioned it? Probably not. Who knows? But it's one of those self-fulfilling prophecies in some ways that kind of creates a situation in which that domino starts to fall and leads into that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I thought that was really good is the way that Vedic Yarka he kind of activates Kira's spiritual and religious side, where we always see that she is passionate about her political convictions and where she stands, in Bajor's affairs when it comes to Cardassia. But we don't see her so much engaged in the spiritual aspect of the Bajoran people, which is, the other side of it. She's more on the practical side and not the spiritual side.
Right.
And in this part, she starts to really engage in that and question. And I like that.
Yeah, she. We keep talking about the evolution of Kira's character, who, she may have the biggest evolution or like the top 3 biggest character arcs. And this is another one of those tiny little flashpoints in which she's now taking a slight change from all military, all business, all politics, just make it happen, into, well, yeah, I guess I kind of do believe he might be the emissary, kind of, like little bits where she, she's softening up to Odo a little bit. She's softening up to Sisko a little bit. She's revealing her beliefs a little bit. She's really in this 3rd season having a lot of minor changes that are leading to a really big arc.
In addition to that, I felt like Odo and Sisko had a very big breakthrough moment in this episode where I felt like Odo really opened up to Sisko and was honest with him to a level that we haven't seen before this. And specifically when he starts to talk about agenda and
Right. Yeah, that's great.
that agenda conversation that he has with Sisko, where he basically says, well, you have an agenda too. And he reveals that he's been observing Sisko's behavior, right? So that's the first part we never really got any insight on how Odo views Sisko. And this is a very intimate look on how he's been observing his behavior and how he thinks his agenda is to absolve himself of the title of an emissary, how he doesn't want anything to do with the being the emissary. He doesn't judge him for it. He just identifies that as being the case, right?
Yeah, he says, your desire to distance yourself from the title of emissary. And then he also says, all humanoids have an agenda of some sort. And that was what was good about that to me, was when he said, something about your agenda. Like, a lot of times I can guess where Star Trek is going. We understand the themes. We know it well. I don't remember these first few seasons episodes well enough to remember exactly what happens, but I've seen enough Star Trek to know kind of what the themes are. And this was another one of those where it did surprise me a little bit, because he said your agenda, and I was thinking, what's his agenda? And then when he says your desire to distance yourself from the title of emissary, it's like, good one, Star Trek. I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't considered that one. And it works.
And it's true. And I hadn't thought of it either. And I was thinking, what is Odo going to say right now? What is he going to accuse Sisko's agenda? What is he going to say his agenda is? But then when he does reveal that it is to kind of distance himself from the title of emissary, that makes sense to me. And it is accurate, because that is what Sisko does not want. He doesn't want to be a religious figure or icon. He doesn't want to be worshipped in any type of way. He wants to just, he mentioned there was a nice line where he was saying, where you see stars, I see a comet. Where you see the emissary, I see a Starfleet officer. And I like that too. I like the way he was kind of going through the motions of saying, this is my perspective. I know you guys are trying to throw this on me, and I'm the power, the chosen one. But and this is where another breakthrough scene I think happened too, which was the scene with Dax, where Sisko and Dax had a moment, and you can tell that now Dax was, kind of saying to him, "Are you going to let the prophecy make your decisions, or are you yourself going to make the decisions?"
Right.
And that was
that was the turning point right there.
Right.
That's when he like closed the book. He's like, all right, gotcha.
And I like that. I also like that scene between Dax and Sisko, another kind of elevation in their relationship, which I felt was a real milestone at least for me, having more insight into how they communicate with each other and how other characters are there for Sisko, because he's usually there for other people. But in this particular episode, he's the one kind of getting the counseling, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There were just so many great moments and little subtle changes in there. And there was that moment when I'll tell you when I figured out what the trick was when they're in the Gamma Quadrant and they said the three comets, or the three fragments, are still headed for the wormhole. I was like, I got it. The three fragments are the Vipers, and the wormhole is the nest in the sky. I get it. At that point I got it. And it's okay. It didn't necessarily need to be a surprise throughout. But there's also something called the Nostradamus effect, which is if somebody makes thousands of predictions, and one of them can be interpreted as coming true, suddenly they're this great, all-seeing, all-knowing thing, where it's like if every single day I told somebody, it's going to rain today, it's going to rain today, or whatever, and then eventually it rains. They're like, whoa, Ryan totally knew it was going to rain. Nobody else did. And then you sound like some kind of prophet, but really you just make a bunch of outlandish claims or veiled predictions, like when they say and I think this was kind of a little take on Nostradamus, because Nostradamus used to write in these quatrains, French quatrains to boot, and he wrote them in metaphor and all these different kinds of ways of saying it rather than just saying it directly, because that was during the Roman Empire and he didn't want to get killed for being a witch or whatever like that. So that's why this guy is saying the vipers and the nest in the sky, rather than just saying 3 comets or whatever he would think it is, 3 rocks in the sky will land in a celestial thing. So maybe that's why he was using all these weird metaphors or something like that. But I did notice the Nostradamus thing in there.
I noticed the Nostradamus thing. Actually wrote it in my notes as well, and I think there's a whole lot more in that we can get into with the Nostradamus thing. So yes, how he would write in his quatrains was very ambiguous. For example, he would say the twin brothers of York will fall in the new millennium.
Yeah.
So, you could say, for example, people have said, oh, the twin brothers of York are the twin towers in New York in the new millennium and this and that. And so therefore the prophecy has come true.
Right.
And that's why I think what the writers did well was explain how translation and interpretation can alter the meaning. I thought that there was a moment in this particular episode where Kira was being really honest with Sisko, and he's like, "All right, so tell me what you believe. You think I'm the emissary?" And he says, "Well, explain it to me how you think it is." And she says, "Well," and her rationale was, "There, the prophets are timeless beings that have no, understanding of time." And it would be easy for them to transmit a message to somebody 3,000 years ago and give them something that would eventually occur. So, and she was making a pretty valid argument, I thought, for why she thought it would make sense that somebody could look into the future 3,000 years from now, right?
Right. And what she was giving was a scientific answer to a potentially spiritual question. They're saying, how else could somebody possibly know? Oh, if your science is so smart, how do you explain this? And well, there is a scientific explanation potentially right there.
Which I thought was very well argued on her behalf. Mm-hmm. She didn't just go into just pure belief. She gave a very reasonable way in which it could possibly happen, right? A timeless alien entity that knocks over clipboards with notes on it.
It's mad at you. It's like, stop talking about me. I'm not timeless. Right? I just experience it differently.
Exactly. But then Sisko counters her rationale, which is another thing that I enjoyed in this particular thing. And that's where he says, well, the text has been translated and passed down, which is also another valid scientific argument. Now, these things I would also, you mentioned Nostradamus, but I go to the Bible and,
exactly.
And the Bible,
It's been translated a million times over from different people, and it's a bunch of different writers all put together. And that's why there's so many ways that these things could be interpreted. It seems like it's giving very exact and clear things, but what if when it says, for example, man, you think it means, well, they're talking about men. But what if he just means like mankind, like man, like humans? Then it's not a specifically a gender specific thing. It's just talking about people in general, for example.
Yeah. And so that to me is very good. They had a very good kind of debate about just an intellectual way to perceive. And her way of perceiving it was, hey, it is possible. It's within the realm of possibility that these entities can move through time, experience time differently, and um, impose a revelation on somebody so that they had the foresight to know what was going to happen. Sisko's counter to that was, well, the texts that you're talking about have been translated and retranslated and passed down over thousands of years. And, like the game of telephone, what was originally meant to be said is not what comes out on the receiving end. So, very good arguments, in my opinion, for both rationales, for both of their perspectives. And that's why actually those are the kinds of discussions that I think lead to growth. When somebody has a emotionless, kind of very rational way of perceiving and arguing and presenting your point. To
Totally.
me, I love that balance. So there were some very good scenes with Kira and Sisko, Odo and Sisko, and Dax and Sisko in this episode.
Let's not pretend that there wasn't a great scene between O'Brien and that Cardassian lady. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that on the other side of this thing. What was her name? Which one was it?
Galora. Her name was Galora.
Yeah, Galora. You're right. Yeah, boy, oh boy, was that that's a nice, juicy, meaty chunk to enjoy there. Also, one or two NAMs to discuss. And on the other side, we'll also talk about the cutting room floor of the Trivioids. But before we go to the other side, very quickly, let's give a shout out to everybody that we normally see at Star Trek Las Vegas. These people that we know and love that come and go every year. We see them. It's like a family reunion without the awkwardness. And right now we're not in Star Trek Las Vegas. We're all at home. We're all doing, whatever we're doing, whether it's quarantining or, working from home or whatever. And these are great people. We love them all. And it's just kind of a bummer not to see them, So we wanted to give a shout out to all of them, right? Lots of smiling faces.
Yeah, this is that time of year, always around my birthday, that we all gather together and are in the physical presence of each other. And the big thing about doing the virtual TrekCon was to kind of bring us together again so that we wouldn't have such a void. And I think that was well accomplished. But yes, big shout out to all the people that we normally see around this time. And we are hoping and keeping our fingers crossed that next year we can make up for the lost time.
Yeah, and we're going to name them all right now. No, I'm just kidding.
After the break.
Yeah. Also, a shout out to Creation Entertainment because, look, yes, it's a business, but bottom line is they're the ones that have been bringing us together for however many years and decades. So shout out to Creation Entertainment and all the good people that run that convention, because without them, we would not know each other. So thanks very much to them.
Thank you.
That's it. Let's flip over the other side. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule.